We need to talk about Mass Effect.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about Mass Effect. Andromeda.
Do you want the queue? Are we doing games now?
I
think
Do
we're
the Mass Effect.
I think
one.
as little fanfare as possible.
Oh no. Wow, I feel like I dodged a bullet.
What happened? What
what
happened?
Yeah, I don't know. The game is
It's bizarre.
so.
Yes.
I've played up to through EOS, which is kind of the first big main quest.
Well, like you did the story stuff there?
yeah,
Because there's
I know there's plenty more to do.
plenty more to do
I know
there.
there's
Yeah.
plenty, I mean, but no, I played about as much EOS as I intend to play. I would say, unless they force me back there for some reason. But well, I guess
Yeah, like story quests do take you back there.
let me back up a little bit.
Yes.
I finished the main kind of quest on EOS, which is kind of the first big thing you do once you're kind of establishing the game. Went back to the ship and went back to the Nexus and talked to everyone.
Nice. Almost call it the Citadel.
Yeah. Talked to everyone I could talk to get their motivations and get a sense for like, okay, how are all these characters maybe going to fit in? I'm sure there'll be twists later, but let's at least get the setup. And then I stopped playing Mass Effect. And I don't know, I'm not sure that I'm going to play any more Mass Effect.
Huh.
I've heard people say that it gets better later on. You guys played tons of it.
I'm fairly far. So there's a part, you do EOS, and then there's a part you can you go somewhere else, and then you choose.
They give you a couple more planets, and they're like, pick one of these and go do the thing, and then we'll let you move on.
And they kind of say, this will be more combat heavy on this planet. This will be more conversational. So I went for the combat one because that was the one part of the game I liked so far.
Sure.
Right.
And I did both of those planets, and then I did another thing after that. And I don't know why I'm going to play more, but I might.
Yeah.
I'm a
it's-
little further than you. I'm
Okay.
like pushing 40 hours in.
Okay.
And I would say I like it more than when I started, but I wouldn't say it's gotten better. I think it's more that my expectations kind of bottomed out at a certain point, and it's like, all right, I'm starting to accept this thing for what it is. I see how it's built.
See how it's built. Is it coming together though, like storyline wise? They're really not expanding.
No.
Okay, so you're like 40 hours in. How much of that is like side quests? Are you kind of mainlining? Or?
I maxed out one planet just because I wanted to see what that did. The one thing I kind of like about the game is the colonization aspect of it. Like
You're leaving your mark.
The numbers go up.
You're seeing
Yes,
numbers
that's
go up.
kind of what it
There's
is.
Progression.
If they had leaned
visually,
more heavily into
yeah.
that stuff, like if they'd given you more control over, like they'd almost done like a little SimCity-ish kind of thing of like, yeah, I want to customize these bases and like do stuff that matters to this colonization effort, I think that would have been really cool because even what they have there, which is really just kind of like window dressing for like, okay, you'd finish these quests, now a base is here.
Right.
But even that is kind of satisfying, you know? It's like, oh, this planet was super fucked up, it was all irradiated, and there were like acid storms and whatever, and then I did some stuff, and like now the skies are clear, and now there's a thriving little base here, and like that's kind of a cool feeling. But like that's as far as they go with it. Other than like all that does really is open up a bunch of like super bland side like mission givers and side quests that are kind of just a way to get that number up.
Yeah.
Which ultimately doesn't really amount to much, but it could have, and that would have been pretty cool.
I keep hearing that the combat seems good, but how are the quests themselves? Is there much variety
It's
or
super cookie cutter?
really?
Well, do you mean the story stuff or the like? Because there are a bazillion side quests in this game, like a staggering,
Like the design of
incomprehensible
the
amount.
quests themselves. Like is it
The-
just like fetchy stuff? Is it just like shoot your
The
way
side
to the
quests,
end of
the side stuff is 100% like. It's always like go to a place and then either activate 2 things or scan 3 things or like
shoot 2 things
or yeah, like kill some stuff, like come back to me or maybe don't because maybe we'll just give you credit right there on the spot. But it's all super superficial and surface level. Like there's no story really tied into any of that stuff that means anything. Like there will be dialogue around those missions, but it's like the most boilerplate, like just kind of placeholder stuff. It's like I'm a scientist and they stole my equipment. I wish I had it back, and then you get it back, and then you can say, "So why are you here?" And they'll be like 2 sentences of like, "I've always cared about science.
Yeah.
Here I am.
I've always
Thanks for your help."
cared about science.
Yeah, like that's about as deep as any of the individual conversations with the quest givers get because it's just a means to get you out there to do a thing and come back and then be rewarded with XP. Like it does nothing to flesh out the universe.
Even if that thing is playing Sudoku.
Yeah.
So
Really?
There's a lot of Sudoku.
Yeah, so
Is it called like Space Doku or something or?
it's I don't know if they actually.
I don't think
what
they
they call
it's
it.
just
the
a
hacking. Yeah,
The hacking.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
it's like the ancient. It's the people in this galaxy made
Locked
it
their doors
Sudoku
with
because
Sudoku.
they didn't expect a bunch of Milky Way people who have played a lot of Sudoku to come and figure it out so fast. So that's
I didn't know
so-
we've been preparing for this.
So you wrung all the ancient alien technology out of the Milky Way that you could, and then you went to Andromeda,
Right.
To look for more ancient alien technology.
And
like that's the thing again.
Right.
New galaxy, like same basic
Citadel,
basic construct. Okay. Yeah, like it's
it seems like the number of things that just map over directly from the previous trilogy onto this in terms of just like, okay, instead of the Citadel, you've got this thing. What is the
Nexus?
Nexus.
Which basically looks the same.
Yeah. And
like you've got the Tempest, which looks just like the Normandy.
I mean, it's like a good way, like the Next Generation Star Trek. That did a good job of that, right?
I actually saw somebody liken it more to Star Trek Voyager, which I feel like is a better analogy.
I like Voyager. Yeah, Neelix.
Yeah. But Voyager at least felt different in a different way, as opposed to we are trying to make the same thing again, which I feel like this maybe just it leans a little too heavily on like, okay, here's this stuff from the first game or from the first games slightly retooled.
Like that can work if you justify it though.
Yeah.
Like Metal Gear Solid 2 did it.
Yeah.
And found a crazy dumb interesting reason to do it.
Yeah.
Versus this is just like,
if this game ends with fucking like Shepard taking a helmet off and go, that was a fun simulation, boom, cut to black, right? That's a better game somehow.
Totally. Because right now it just feels like they sat down and said like, okay, by the numbers, what are the things that make a Mass Effect game? Let's just fill all of those blanks in again.
Yeah.
So what is
it's like Mad Libs for
right.
Yeah.
But like this, but at least in the old games, like the story was the thing that propelled you forward.
Right.
Even if the combat was never really, I mean, combat in 2 was pretty great. They fixed it up a lot, and 3 was pretty cool. But like, what is it that's making it so disinteresting? Is it just so?
It just fails to land. I mean, like I said, it's you. They went to a whole new galaxy and then kind of brought all the same stuff back. It's like you're discovering more ancient alien technology that powers everything. Like there's a kind of like faceless, bland, big bad guy out there who wants it too, and like there's just kind of. It's just a bunch of like very standard like sci-fi video game tropes.
It kind of seems like the Halo 4 problem of like, hey, you've got this opportunity to start a new trilogy, and then like a mission and a half in Halo 4, it's like, oh, by the way, here's all the same enemies from the other Halo games in conjunction with this little light sprinkling of new stuff.
Yeah,
like this kind of seems like that.
Yeah, I mean, you get to the Andromeda Galaxy. It takes like 600 something years for them in cryosleep, and the first place you go could be Arizona. And then you go to the snow planet, which just looks like Hoth. It's retreading. It doesn't. I mean, you first see these like floating stones when you get to the first planet, and I was like, okay, cool. Maybe they're gonna play with the physics of the galaxy because it's not the Milky Way anymore. But no, it just becomes normal. There's like even like you meet new alien races that weren't in the first trilogy, and your voice translator immediately figures out how to decipher their language. Really? So there's no like arrival kind of figuring out communication.
The story just feels like kind of disjointed and really oddly paced. Like they kind of rush you through things that should be given a lot more gravity. Like when you meet those aliens, and there are only 2 new alien races in this entire galaxy.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and you meet both of them like right up front. On top of that, they really go out of their way to justify why like half of the aliens from Mass Effect will not be in this game. Like there's that
throwaway line of dialogue.
There's like that line of dialogue early on. They're like, yeah, there was another colony ship that had the Quarians and the Elcor and the Hanar and the blah blah blah. And blah dudes. They all had their own ship. They had technical problems. They weren't able to leave at the same time as us.
They're somewhere in dead space.
DLC.
Right.
Yeah, so, or like the sequel. Like, it's like, oh, their ship showed up. Hooray!
Yeah.
It's a whole ship full of Elcor.
So don't expect to see any of them in this.
It's just, I mean, for me, it's, I always thought that the combat in the Mass Effect games got better, but it still only got good in service of like a storytelling and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's very telling that by Mass Effect 3, they were like, hey, we've got a narrative setting because the story is the star here, so you can turn the difficulty down on the shooting or whatever. And they still have that here.
Okay.
But now the story doesn't seem to be holding up its end of the bargain. And like the combat, I think, is good in spots. I think the mobility is a neat twist.
I think it's the best combat that they've had in a Mass Effect game.
I feel like the reduction, the inability to tell your squad mates to use their powers actually really sucks.
That's almost like a deal breaker.
Oh, really?
It's like you have fewer options now.
I was one of the guys that would actually pause combat, move everything around, like issue commands and stuff, and then watch it all play.
That's 100%
I liked
gone.
that.
Really?
100% gone.
Wasn't that like? Didn't they do a really good version of that in Origins? Like they sort of.
They did an Inquisition too, I believe.
Well, Dragon Age was very much about like stop everything,
right?
Set up your stuff and execute, and they've.
I think even Inquisition still has
Inquisition still has that.
Oh, sorry, I meant Inquisition.
Yeah. It's a little. By the time they got to Inquisition, I think they cut it back to. Anyway, they did do that, but you could control any member of your party in Inquisition,
right?
Yeah.
Whereas in this,
you can't issue the wait. So
you can tell them what to attack, and you can tell them where to go, and that's it.
Oh no!
And you can't even equip different weapons on them and stuff. You can customize their skills. Right. You can decide how they level up, but that's it.
So how's the combat better?
The
Like,
mobility,
just
the mobility.
feeling of it,
That's
or-
the thing is, I don't think it is. I
Right.
think it is maybe on par with 3, but also like so it's got a jump, jet, and a dash, so you can kind of you can jump up and air dash.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's way
that's
more mobile.
fun.
But the bigger thing is that you can buy any skill you want. They don't limit it by your class selection anymore.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
the class you pick at the beginning just determines which skills you start with, but then you can put points into anything.
Right.
So I'm mixing and matching skills in a way I never could before because of those limitations. So it feels a lot more between the mobility and all the different skills you can jam together in weird combinations.
like your character becomes a lot more open.
But it is
to
more of a
different types
pure.
of
It is,
abilities,
it is
but-
way more of a pure action game now than it was before.
Right. So they've taken the whole like you using this set of skills between your party and just giving it all to you, kind of.
Yeah,
Kinda, yeah.
But you
Yeah.
can only have 3 equipped at a time, so it's still it doesn't like they'll run off and do combat, and some of that stuff looks like fucked up. I mean, a lot of the animation and stuff like mid combat as well as
Characters will like
in
teleport
cutscenes.
above enemies and just like
Yeah, like, what is it?
Oh, really?
Is Cora her name? She does like a
saw that
teleport punch, and
Yeah.
she'll
Well,
It's
teleport
charge.
to
It's
a
the
charge.
It's the
Okay.
biotic charge.
So she'll biotic charge to an enemy that's in the air, which means she'll just appear in the air in this standing punch animation, and then kind of stumble on it a little bit, like it's trying to stand on the enemy, and then fall to the earth. And it's just like this is like how did this happen? Why is this in a shipping game?
It is. It is way beyond the combat. It is. This
Yeah.
is. This is.
Those games are always a little bit rougher.
I am
but
on the
this
verge
is-
of calling
oh,
this
really?
the buggiest AAA game I have ever played. It is very close to that. Like,
Did you play that Assassin's Creed game?
Unity.
Not enough to see that stuff.
That
but
stuff. This reminds me of that in some ways, but I think that maybe still takes it. It's,
Did that stuff?
Yeah.
Did that stuff break the gameplay though? Because like there are
Ye-
multiple cases here where I just
Yes.
haven't been able to do things because of stuff breaking.
I feel like there was like
Yeah.
quest scripting issues and stuff like that. It wasn't just like everyone focused on the image of the broken face thing,
Yeah.
and Mass Effect sure has its
yeah,
share
this
of
is
faces.
this is similar to that.
But
I've got
yeah,
multiple quests in my log that I just can't finish because either like the options to complete them are not there, or I do the things and they don't check off.
Oh no.
I've had quests from earlier in the game that I finished like come back and become my active quest again, even
Yes.
though they were finished. You saw stuff like that.
Yeah, the active quest management is super annoying.
The quest stuff is like borderline broken at times. I was running around my ship last night, and one of the rooms off to the side like failed to draw in, so the door just looked like a gaping hole into space.
Wow.
Because it was just the skybox from behind the room that wasn't there.
which you don't want on a
Yeah.
spaceship.
No.
yeah.
That's
I mean,
I had the main character like blink out of existence and back in during a major cutscene last night.
Jesus.
Oh yeah, my favorite one I've seen so far. Someone on GameSpot was capturing it. He was talking to a Krogan, and the Krogan was speaking back, and all of a sudden another
Yes.
clone came out
Yes.
and started wandering the room.
Two versions of the part of the crew member were like doing different routines in
Yeah.
the room at the same time.
and it became unclear which one he was speaking to because the dialogue continued.
Right after that stream last week, we started a new game just off the stream just to mess with it with the female writer, and the very first scene where you like wake up and sit up in bed, another NPC had spawned right on top of her, and so there were like two models like she was clipping in with this other guy. But then after it gave me control and I stood up, I turned around and talked to the guy. He turned out to be an NPC from a quest that you do later on in the game, who was back there. And when I talked to him, he gave me his like mission complete dialogue. He was like, "Oh, thanks for
Right.
saving me back there. Like, I'm glad to be back safe on the ship." Like 30 seconds into the game, like this NPC from later in the game.
did it then check off the
It
quest?
didn't actually give me
Okay.
quest credit
All
for
right.
for a quest I didn't have in my log yet. But I was just like, dude, what is going on with this thing?
Yeah, it seems like there's kind of a lot of that
yeah.
stuff.
I've had armor show up in the leg armor list
Jeez.
before. Just
So is this just like a rush it out before Q1 as
yeah,
well?
I'll do
This
this.
is
Like,
like
I don't think it's
end
it's
of
no
fiscal year.
coincidence.
Right.
No coincidence. This thing's coming out at the end of March. I don't
Right.
think. I think they
That's
they
so sad.
had to get it out. It
Come on.
it needed a lot more attention.
I mean,
than it
EA
got.
needed this to. I mean, it maybe doesn't fix the rest of the game, like the reception to the rest of the
Right,
game.
yeah, yeah.
But like, you're coming off of 3. I mean, 3 was a good game, but the ending really soured people a lot. Like, you needed this not to be this.
Yeah.
Like, you needed it to
Yeah.
be some bit of a win.
Yeah.
Like, that seems super frustrating if they decided to do that for fiscal reasons.
It's hard to say. Like,
Well, that wouldn't
I
have-
don't, yeah, exactly.
that
I don't know that
wouldn't have
fixes
fixed
the
it or-
story.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like
Yeah.
like more polish would. You know, there would be fewer things to laugh at
Yeah.
and clown on, which you know. There's enjoyment to be derived from that end of it, I guess. Weirdly enough, but like from talking to people that have seen the story through and some of that other stuff, like that would still be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, where it's really disappointing is where it fails to do the stuff that Mass Effect has always done well.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like kind of okay combat and bugs you expect.
Yeah.
But like failing to craft like a really interesting story with a lot of kind of side narratives that you can follow and flesh out the universe and stuff. Like
Any of the companions
that's
particularly?
unforgivable. Not
No.
the alien Jawl. Did you get Yeah, you've got him. Yeah.
I like him, but
he's okay. He's probably the best party member.
He falls into that area that I think a lot of sci-fi, the trope that a lot of sci-fi movies use. It's that person who comically doesn't understand like human emotion, so he'll say really offensive things without realizing it.
Right.
But yeah, I think he is one of the more interesting.
He's got
ones.
kind of a wry sense of humor. Like he can be kind of fun to roll around with on occasion. But yeah, most of the party members are just like just super shallow. A lot of really like stilted dialogue. Just way below par for what.
And then a lot of like weird, really kind of bad facial animation.
That stuff
is
that's the stuff that makes for good like animated GIF fodder.
Yeah. Do you care about it like 4 hours in?
I mean, I only care about it because the thing you care about in Mass Effect is the story, and they have done well at crafting emotional tales in the past.
Yeah.
So this stuff undermines a lot of that, even in cases where they might get it right. If you've got goofy facial animations like the female writer, and I guess like you've been playing male writer, so you've said it kind of is similar that way, but like she just seems to always have this vague kind of half smile on her face,
right?
That like as she's hearing heavy things about like, oh, your family member's in trouble, like she's like, really, like this weird kind of smile, like, oh, that's terrible. Like, what the fuck is going, like, so it just undermines their storytelling even further when that stuff doesn't work out. And so yeah, when you take it all together, this thing's I'll put it to you this way. I had Mass Effect over the weekend. I had the ability to play as much or as little Mass Effect as I wanted to. I played Wildlands instead.
Right.
And I think Wildlands is a pretty middling game.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, no shortage of really good games to play right now.
Yeah.
So it seems like
right. Yeah.
Maybe not the best time to put out a subpar Mass Effect.
Total. Well, there's never. I mean, yeah. I don't know. After 3, I felt really burned, and not necessarily because of the ending, but just because of the way they wrapped up so many different story threads throughout 3.
I mean, it was a little bit greatest hits of Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Like, it was definitely a little bit like, you're going to solve every major outstanding problem in this entire galaxy in one game.
Yeah. But like those solutions are going to come fast and like kind of tossed off in ways, and so that was my problem.
Like,
with Mass Effect.
Of course you have a cure for the genophage ready to go.
Right, of course.
Like, of course I'm going to broker peace between the Quarians and the Geth like right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, like,
and those were
people.
Fine.
People wanted closure, though.
Totally,
to that stuff.
and they did good on those things.
Yeah.
Like the genophage stuff, I thought was like finally good.
It was handled well.
See. It was more the stuff where like you had people walking up to you and saying like, "Oh, hey, it's you from the first. Remember me from the first game? Hi, how you doing?" Like these incredibly convenient conversations.
Like they felt compelled to look at the list of like, okay, what's every decision you've made over the last 2 games? We have to make sure somebody shows up and mentions each one of those. Top to bottom.
So like by the end of Mass Effect 3, like I felt disappointed. And then, like, everything, of course, happened after the fact. And it was like, okay, this whole property is just like nuclear. Like, get away from it, cool it down. And so it took years before I was like, actually, when they first announced a new Mass Effect, I was like, oh man, they definitely shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it for another 6 months or so. I was like, actually, maybe enough time has passed that I'm ready to see a new Mass Effect. And then for this to be the game that they put back out there after all that, like, this is the point where stop making them.
Right.
Like, this is obviously the setup for a new set of games.
No, they came out and said this
trilogy?
game stands on its own.
Okay. Oh, really?
I don't know. I don't know I haven't seen the ending yet, but
my understanding is that it does leave room for
more.
That's every video game. Every video game does.
But not the way Mass Effect 1 did, where it was like, we are coming back to this.
I mean, they announced that as a trilogy. I think.
Yeah.
They came out and said that would be a big thing.
Like your decisions.
Because that was the game more than any of where like they came out and said, hey, you're going to make a bunch of decisions in this game that will carry over to the next one. They were pitching that as like a series.
Right. And if this is the level of quality you can expect out of new Mass Effect games, they should not make any more Mass Effect games.
Yes.
They should have probably let it die.
I agree.
That's a shame.
I feel for him because like, what do you do after 3? It's like
they found a way. I mean, whatever. They found a way to reopen the book, right? They're like, oh, what if we took it out of this entire theater and moved it to some place pretty far away? Like, there's a ton of potential in
really,
what they
but
did.
then they didn't make good on any of that.
And that's on them. I think there was definitely room for them to make a new Mass Effect game. They came up with a premise. They came up with a justification for why there might be more.
Yeah.
And then everything that, from hearing you talk about later parts of the game, from the stuff I've seen myself, and, seeing some stuff later on in the game myself, like they should probably stop.
And it should be relatively. I mean, for any series, it's difficult to do a reboot. Usually because the protagonist is the thing you can't carry over when you do that, or you're like resetting it. But like, there was never an affinity with Shepard. Like Shepard was always just a cipher for you. Like I never cared about Shepard. I cared about his friends.
I cared about me as Shepard. But it's friend. Like the crew. Like you formed bonds with Garrus. And I mean like characters you can still name by name.
Right.
I don't think anyone's going to feel that way about most of the characters from Andromeda.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't seen much Scott Ryder. I went with Sarah, and honestly, she's my least favorite character in the game right now. Like the person I'm supposed to be seeing this world through their eyes, I can't stand her.
That's the thing. Like Shepard actually did. Shepard ended up feeling like an established character to me because I role played him consistently or whatever, But like I thought of him as a guy who acted a certain way because of all the decisions I made about how he acted. But like the Ryder character feels like a faceless cipher,
right?
Largely because the face is like so rigid all the time.
Yeah,
like they don't even act like real people.
Yeah,
but
and I don't know if they were trying to make at least Sarah feel like this really insecure character. It's kind of like the first game when you're becoming a Spectre. Is that you're kind of thrust into this situation where like a human or your character would not normally be, but of course they rush it in this game really fast, so I don't think they gave it the impact it deserved. But she'll start saying these things. We were on that ice planet, and she said something like, I know we're on an ice planet, but in that case, let's stay extra frosty. And then if you can turn the nomad travel dialogue off, and I suggest you do that because I had Jal, that character we mentioned before, and the Turian, Vetra, and they were talking. And at one point, they started getting in an argument, and my character, Sarah Ryder, said, I swear I will turn this car around.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff like that in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of asshole.
They're trying to go for an endearing asshole, and I don't think they did it.
But that's not limited to that character. I mean, there's tons. Like practically every character in the game has like some variation of like, oh, I shot that guy in the face, or like I'm number one. I'm number one.
Yeah,
like
just their attempts at cutesy dialogue, I think, undermine it even further.
I saw the floating rocks thing. Yeah, where they don't shut up about the floating rocks.
A lot of that stuff, and it does not go over well.
Yeah, and it seems like, I mean, all that dialogue is mapped onto Scott Ryder as well. I think it's it's not like they made a tonal change.
And don't create a character if you're gonna play this game.
Like somebody,
go with the default.
Yeah.
Animation.
Those lines keep floating up in my
yeah.
Somebody was talking shit at me at one point, and Ryder's like, "Oh, the snark is strong with this one." It's just like, is that a weird Star Wars reference? In this? Like, what?
What the fucking? Are you for fucking real?
Yes, that is a line in that game.
Is that a Half-Life reference?
Shut this shit down.
It's just like, what is happening with this thing?
Yeah, that's it seems profoundly disappointing.
Yeah.
I guess, right?
Like, there's a lot to do in it. I found myself like zoning out at one point. Like I got one of those planets up to 100% just by like driving around doing every side quest I could find.
That is how I played the last quarter or so of Wildlands.
Yeah,
was just like this is a checklist, and I can check stuff off. And I was like, oh, at some point I'm like, I'm actually close to finishing this. I'm going to finish this and write a review because why not?
Like, none of it is especially rewarding, but there's a lot of it to do, and you can waste a lot of time doing it if you want.
Yeah.
Buy, rent, avoid.
Are
you reviewing it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It's gonna take me a while to get to this. So like, I'm a huge fan of the Mass Effect series.
Who's not?
I really wanted to go back into that universe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I can wait.
There are times when there have been times like running around my ship when I just sort of let my brain go slack and stop thinking about all the things that are wrong with it, and I just go like, I'm in my spaceship.
Yeah.
This is Mass Effect. I could fly anywhere I want and do some cool stuff.
Then your eyes focus and you see what you're looking at and you go, oh.
Yeah, like that's exactly what it is. Like every time I get into that state, I am just like jolted back to like awareness of all the things that are wrong with it.
And then you go to scan planets and there's this animation to zoom into each planet every single time.
Yeah. Moving from any one planet to another is like this 30-second unskippable animation of like pulling back from the planet, like slowly changing angle, slowly flying to the new. Like I have no idea.
That's your Resident Evil door opening.
But there's nothing to load there. All it is another planet model. I have no idea.
Like the number of planets you can actually go down to and visit seems like painfully low as well. It's like 6 or 7.
5. Like in terms of ones that have a progression on them where the number goes up, there's 5. I think there's like 2 or maybe 3 like smaller ones that just have little bits of story, but that's just little bits of story stuff. Like one very small map, like one little city or something. It's not that much.
Yeah.
Because like all the side stuff they used to put on random planets that you could go explore, or interesting little side locales, like all that stuff is just crammed into the 5 story locations now. So it's like you did Havarl, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like I did that way later because that's the point where you can pick the 2 planets. So the one that I didn't pick, I came back way later when I had already unlocked a bunch of other side quests that happened to be there. And you land there, and there's like 6 completely unrelated things that are like big story threads, like all with quest objectives, like right around the landing site of your ship. It's like, oh, you have to go activate this monolith. Oh, by the way, the Turian ship also happened to crash like 20 feet in the other direction. Like, here's this rebel leader who also happens to live right next to where you landed. Like, they just cram it all.
It's like walking into Iron Forge.
Yeah, it feels super contrived. Yeah.
How's the multiplayer? Like 3 was
it's okay.
Received really well. I'm hearing good stuff about this.
It's not bad.
Okay.
I just started getting to play it yesterday because nobody had the game before it was out. So
All right.
couldn't get in any sessions, but like it's fine if you want to play some wave-based survival with blind box item drops.
I installed the mobile app yesterday.
Ooh, did you?
Which
I was thinking about it.
Use to send your strike teams out to earn credits for some other thing.
Because it's got timed missions. It's got timed.
It's like they'll
Assassin's
be
Creed Brotherhood.
Yeah, they're doing it for 5 hours, and now every 5 hours I can pick my phone up and go do this now, I guess, and then these numbers will also go up.
Another clicker to add to your repertoire.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if you have to play a new Mass Effect game.
This is the one to go to, man.
This is a new Mass Effect game.
I guess I also, like, before we move on, like, I played a fair amount on the Xbox One,
right?
And it looks way blurrier there than it does even on a base PlayStation 4. Playing it on a Pro, it's a sharp looking game. The frame rate is not amazing.
It does not run super well even on Pro.
But in terms of like comparing the console versions, because I haven't seen PC, like that Xbox One version looks weirdly blurry. Like, check my eyes. Like, is my TV on the wrong setting? Like, these models look really blurry. I don't know why.
Yeah, I was telling you guys last week, I played on Xbox as well, and every time my Xbox goes to sleep without fail during that game, when I turn it back on, I can move the camera in the game, but everything else has frozen.
Oh, no.
Like 7 out of 7 times it's happened, because I leave it on at work at my desk a lot. So when I come back, I'll just turn it on, and I'll start capturing, but it will be just the camera can move. And I have to close the app and then
built-in
restart
photo
it.
mode.
Yeah.
I lost the ability to launch the Xbox One version, and I'm not sure why.
Me too.
It popped up and said, like, you need to be online to do this. And I'm like, I totally am online.
I found out, at least, I don't know, I tried troubleshooting it. I had a download in progress in the background, and I paused that and then went back and it worked.
Oh.
I mean, this all sounds like the type of stuff that Microsoft has on their checklist of do not launch a game unless you can deal with sleep mode and unless you can deal with...
Right.
Like, that's... Okay.
But...
Day one patch?
But if EA... Well, no. I mean, they've had multiple patches since we got access to the
PS4
game.
version pulled like 3 patches before release.
Oh, fun. I guess it was on our EA Access, was it? Last week or something?
As of Thursday or something. Right. So, I wonder if that's a case where, like, because they're EA, if you go to Microsoft and say, like, we need to get this game out in March, it has to happen. Like... It definitely 100% cannot get pushed out of March.
I am super curious to see how many patches they put out for this thing and how much attention they give the problems it has, because it is so rough. And I have no idea, like...
It's a real shame.
Yeah. Like, how much they will actually commit to fixing that stuff, versus just kind of, like, push it out there and let it be.
Well, and presumably they'll have, like, DLC and some other stuff going on. Like, they've
There's
got
not a season pass available, is there?
That
you're aware of.
I'm not sure how they're handling the post-release content.
I mean, the maps were free for the last game.
I did see there's like at least one free thing coming in May, I think. Okay. That might just be for the deluxe edition owners. I don't know. I would assume it's probably mostly multiplayer stuff.
So we don't have like a roadmap or star map or whatever. Sorry.
There might be.
Turn this star map around.
I don't know that I would want to play any additional content.
Right.
Are you only playing it now because you're reviewing it? Like, would you stop or...
I mean, that's probably primarily the reason. Like, even if I weren't, I probably would feel obligated to see how it plays out.
Right.
Because I love Mass Effect. Like, it's like my favorite thing from the last generation of consoles. But it's rough.
Oh, God, yeah. It stings, man.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Lately, I've been much better about if I don't want to finish a game, I won't waste the time.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I feel obligated.
I mean, at this point, I think I need to know how it plays out. I've been so frustrated with so much of the storytelling that I need to see what they do to wrap it up. And if they redeem it in any way.
Just do what I did and never complete Mass Effect 3 and then watch the ending last week on YouTube.
Then you're free.
Yeah.
Which ending do you pick?
Oh, yeah.
Moving on.
Let me tell you about this theory I have about what really happened.
Just watch the indoctrination theory.
Jesus Christ. I did watch that. God, people will do anything to fix their...
There are still people out there that think that, like, Metal Gear Solid 5 is not over yet. there's still someone out there that is like picking apart Death Stranding trailers and looking for clues for MGS5. Like, it's still
Death Stranding is mission 52.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Is it.
Exactly.
Metal Gear Solid 5 is not over because I finished it and then it went, no, dog, you're halfway through. Keep going. And I went, fuck no.
Yeah.
Do all of these side quests.
Yeah.
All right. We need to take a break and perhaps go wash ourselves off a little bit. I'll be right back.